The midnight visitor introduces Nate Harlow, a solitary astronomer living in a remote mountain observatory. It's the mysterious purple-skinned visitor Lyra, who appears on his balcony one stormy night. Secrets in the Starlight explores the growing connection between Nate and Lyra as she reveals fragments of her mission and why she sought him specifically. Shadows from the Sky introduces conflict as strange phenomena occur around the observatory and signs that Lyra is being hunted by others of her kind. Trust beyond worlds, Nate must make a choice to help Lyra, despite increasing danger, leading to intimate moments and revelations about her true purpose. Dawn of New Horizons. The climactic resolution as Nate and Lyra face her pursuers and make decisions that will affect both their futures. Now, here's Part 1. Part 1. The midnight visitor rain lashed against the windows of Nate Harlow's mountain observatory. Lightning illuminated the cluttered space in brief electric flashes, revealing star charts pinned to walls and half-empty coffee mugs forgotten on equipment. Nate rubbed his tired eyes and turned away from the telescope, another night of observation ruined by the storm. Perfect timing, he muttered, running fingers through his disheveled brown hair. 3 years at this remote station, tracking unusual stellar phenomena, and tonight's meteor shower would go unseen. A sudden gust rattled the balcony doors. Nate frowned. He'd locked those earlier, hadn't he? Another flash of lightning revealed something impossible. A silhouette crouched on his rain-soaked balcony. Heart racing, Nate approached cautiously. The figure shifted, and in the next lightning flash, he caught a glimpse of lavender skin and eyes that reflected light like opals. When he slid the door open, rain sprayed across the floor. The figure, distinctly feminine but unlike any woman he'd ever seen, raised her head. Her skin was a soft purple hue that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Delicate features framed those extraordinary eyes. "May I stay with you tonight, human?" Her voice was melodic, with an accent he couldn't place, each word carefully formed as if speaking required conscious effort. Nate stood frozen, rain soaking his clothes. Scientists didn't believe in the impossible, yet here it was, huddled on his balcony. "Who are you?" he managed. "Lyra," she replied simply, her gaze never leaving his face. "I mean no harm. I need shelter." She stood slowly, revealing a slender form draped in what appeared to be some kind of iridescent fabric that clung to her body like liquid. Against every rational thought, Nate stepped back, making space for her to enter. "I'm Nate," he said, watching as she moved with graceful, deliberate steps into his sanctuary. Lyra surveyed the room with keen interest, her movements fluid yet cautious. Water dripped from her clothing, forming small puddles on the floor. "You're not human, Nate," stated the obvious, his scientific mind already cataloging her differences. The subtle luminescence of her skin, the strange reflective quality of her eyes. "No," a simple acknowledgement. "Your storm interfered with my navigation. I was ... unprepared." She touched a star chart, fingers tracing the constellations with familiar ease. Nate found himself offering her a towel, which she accepted with a curious tilt of her head. "You study the stars," she observed. "Yes, that's my job. This is an observatory." Nate's shock was giving way to curiosity. "Where did you come from?" Lyra's expression shifted, something like sadness crossing her features. "Far beyond your instrument's reach." She looked toward the ceiling as if she could see through it to the storm-clouded sky. "I cannot return tonight." Thunder rumbled overhead, and Nate noticed how she tensed at the sound. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she was afraid of something. "You can stay," he heard himself say. "Until the storm passes." Her eyes met his, and the gratitude in them sent an unexpected warmth through his chest. "Thank you, Nate Harlow," she whispered, and he wondered how she knew his full name when he'd only offered his first. Outside, the storm intensified, but inside the observatory, a different kind of electricity filled the air between the lonely astronomer and his mysterious midnight visitor. Morning light filtered through the observatory windows, painting golden streaks across the floor. Nate awoke with a jolt, momentarily disoriented on the small couch where he'd spent the night. The events of the previous evening rushed back the storm, the strange visitor, the impossible conversation. He sat up quickly, scanning the room. Had it been a dream? A hallucination born from too many solitary nights? "You dream loudly," came Lyra's melodic voice from the balcony doorway. She stood framed by sunlight, her purple skin catching the light in ways that made it seem to pulse with life. In daylight, she was even more striking, elegant features, set in a face that was almost human, yet beautifully alien. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," Nate admitted. Running a hand through his disheveled hair, Lyra moved toward him, each step deliberate yet graceful. "The storm has passed, but my situation remains ... complicated." She gestured toward the sky. "My people are searching. It is not safe for me to signal yet." "Your people?" Nate asked, scientist's curiosity overriding caution. "Who are they? Why are you hiding from them?" Lyra's opalescent eyes studied him, seeming to measure his trustworthiness. After a moment, she approached his star charts. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to a pen on his desk. Nate nodded, watching as she made precise marks on his stellar map, connecting stars and patterns he'd never considered. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, revealing a familiarity with astronomy that matched his own. "This is my home," she said finally, pointing to a cluster near what humans called the Pleiades. "We have watched your world for centuries, studied your development." "You're a scientist too," Nate realized. Moving closer to examine her markings, a small smile curved Lyra's lips. "Observer, chronicler." "Yes." Her expression darkened. "But my observations led to ... disagreement." She hesitated, then placed her hand near his on the table, not touching, but close enough that Nate could feel a strange warmth radiating from her skin. "My people debate whether humanity is ready for contact. Some believe you are dangerous, unpredictable. Others see potential." Her eyes met his. "I wanted to understand for myself. I came alone, unauthorized." The implications staggered Nate. "You're risking everything to understand us." "To understand you," she clarified, and something in her gaze made his pulse quicken. "Our instruments detected your work signals, observations, questions that aligned with my own." Nate felt oddly exposed. His research, his solitary quest to find patterns in stellar phenomena that others had dismissed, had somehow reached across the stars and drawn her to him. "Those who oppose contact would stop me," she continued, voice lowering. "They would erase all evidence of my presence here, including you." The threat hung in the air between them. Yet Nate found himself not backing away, but stepping closer. "I won't tell anyone," he promised. The scientist in him thrilling at the discovery while the man responded to the vulnerability in her eyes. "Your secret is safe with me." Lyra's expression softened with something like relief. She reached out slowly, her fingers finally making contact with his. The touch sent a pleasant tingle up his arm. "Thank you," she whispered. "I knew I chose correctly in that moment of connection." With sunlight streaming through the windows and star charts bearing witness, Nate realized his lonely observatory had become the most important location in human history and possibly the most dangerous. 3 days passed in a blur of revelation and wonder. Lyra shared knowledge of stellar phenomena that would revolutionize astronomy, while Nate taught her about human culture, music, and food. Her curiosity was insatiable, her observations insightful and often amusingly direct. They fell into an easy rhythm, working side by side at his instruments during the day, talking late into the night. Nate found himself laughing for the first time in years, while Lyra seemed to grow more expressive, more fluid in her movements as she adapted to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. It was during the third sunset, as they stood together on the balcony, watching the sky transform into watercolor hues, that Nate noticed something strange, a faint shimmer in the clouds, like heat distortion but more geometric. "Lyra," he began, but she had already tensed beside him, her eyes fixed on the same anomaly. "They've found me," she whispered, her voice tight with fear. Sooner than I calculated. Before Nate could respond, his equipment inside began emitting high-pitched tones. Monitors flickered with interference patterns, and the air pressure in the observatory seemed to drop suddenly. "Who's found you?" Nate asked, though he already suspected the answer. "The Sentinels," Lyra replied, pulling him back inside. "They enforce our isolation protocols." "They will... She hesitated. "They will remove anomalies." "Anomalies meaning you and me?" Nate asked, watching as she quickly gathered star charts marked with her annotations. "Yes." Her movements became more urgent. "I've endangered you. I was selfish to stay." Nate caught her arm gently. "No, you took a chance on understanding. On connection. That's never selfish." Something shifted in Lyra's expression, surprise. Then a softening that made the luminescence beneath her skin pulse brighter. For a moment, they stood close enough that Nate could see flecks of silver in her opalescent eyes. The tender moment shattered as the equipment shrieked louder. Outside, clouds swirled unnaturally. A deep thrumming vibration shook the observatory's foundation. "They're scanning," Lyra explained, moving toward Nate's computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, inputting sequences that made no sense to him, but seemed to counter the interference. "I can mask our presence temporarily, but they will triangulate eventually." Nate watched her work, mesmerized by her concentration and skill. "What happens if they find us?" Lyra paused, her purple skin paling slightly. "Best case, they erase your memory of me and take me back for rehabilitation. And worst case?" She met his eyes steadily. "They determine human contact has contaminated me beyond recovery. They destroy all evidence." The implication hung heavy between them. Nate moved closer, placing his hand over hers on the keyboard. "I won't let that happen." Lyra's expression was complicated, fear mixed with something warmer. "You cannot stop them with your technology." "Then we'll use yours," Nate said, determination solidifying within him. "You came here to understand humans. Maybe it's time your people understood how stubborn we can be when protecting someone we care about." Lyra's eyes widened at his words, and the luminescence beneath her skin brightened, especially at her cheeks. Their fingers intertwined on the keyboard as the shadows circling above grew darker and more defined. Whatever came next. Nate knew with sudden clarity that his life had irrevocably changed the moment Lyra had appeared on his balcony, and he wouldn't trade that change for all the safety in the universe. The observatory had become a fortress of improvised defenses. Nate watched in amazement as Lyra transformed his scientific equipment into something new, devices that emitted pulses to disrupt the Sentinel's scanning technology. Her hands moved with practiced precision, occasionally guiding his when she needed assistance. "How are you doing this?" Nate asked, holding a modified satellite dish as she attached what looked like a small crystal to its receiver. "Your technology is primitive but adaptable," Lyra explained, a hint of admiration in her voice. "The principles are universal. Energy, frequency, resonance." Their fingers brushed as she took the dish from him. The now familiar tingle of her touch made his heart race. 3 days of working closely, of shared danger and discovery, had created something between them that defied easy categorization. "Will it hold them off?" he asked, glancing nervously at the window where strange lights continued to pulse through the clouds. For a time, Lyra connected the final wire. "But we must make a decision before they breach our defenses." She straightened, standing so close that Nate could see the subtle patterns beneath her purple skin, intricate geometries that seemed to shift with her emotions. Her eyes met his, opalescent and deep. "I could leave," she said softly. "Draw them away from you. It's me they want." Nate shook his head immediately. "No, that's not an option." "You don't understand the risk." "I understand perfectly," he interrupted, surprising himself with his vehemence. "I've spent my life searching the stars for answers. And now the most important discovery in human history is standing right in front of me." His voice softened. "I'm not letting you face this alone." Something shifted in Lyra's expression, surprise. Then a warmth that made the luminescence beneath her skin pulse brighter. She reached out, her hand hovering near his face before gently touching his cheek. "Your species fascinates me," she whispered. "So fragile, yet so determined. So afraid, yet so brave." The air between them seemed to charge with electricity. Nate covered her hand with his own, keeping it against his skin. "Is that why you chose my balcony that night?" Lyra's lips curved in a small smile. "I told you. The storm interfered with my navigation." "I don't believe that anymore," Nate said, stepping closer. "You knew exactly where you were going." Their faces were inches apart now. Lyra's eyes searched his, as if still studying, still learning. "Yes," she admitted finally. "I chose you. Your signals. Your questions to the stars. They resonated with me. I wanted to understand the mind that created them. And now?" Nate asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now, I wish to understand more than your mind," she replied, and closed the distance between them. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory. Her lips were warmer than he expected, softer, and the contact sent waves of pleasant electricity across his skin. As they drew closer, the luminescence beneath her skin brightened, casting them both in a soft purple glow. When they finally parted, Nate was breathless. "I didn't know if you're people. If you would want ... Lyra's laugh was like music. "Desire exists across worlds, Nate Harlow. Though I never expected to find it here with you." A sudden, violent tremor shook the observatory, shattering the moment. Outside, the clouds parted to reveal a dark, geometric shape hovering above the mountain. "They've found us," Lyra said, fear returning to her eyes. Nate gripped her hands tightly. "Then we face them together. Show them what they don't understand about humanity and about you." In the glow of her luminescence, with danger descending from above, Nate knew with absolute certainty that whatever happened next would define not just his future, but potentially the relationship between two worlds. The air crackled with energy as the observatory door burst open. Two figures entered, tall, their purple skin darker than Lyra's, their movements precise and fluid. They wore what appeared to be armor that shifted and flowed like liquid metal, and their eyes held none of the warmth or curiosity that characterized Lyra's. "Observer Lyra," the first one spoke, voice resonating oddly in the room. "You have violated primary protocols. You will return for evaluation." Lyra stepped forward, positioning herself slightly in front of Nate. "Sentinels. One claim, right of discovery. This human has shown capacity beyond our previous assessments." The second sentinel tilted its head, evaluating Nate with cold efficiency. "The human is compromised. Memory extraction and biological sampling are required before termination." Nate felt a chill run through him but stood his ground. "I'm not letting you take her, or my memories of her." The sentinels exchanged glances, seemingly surprised by his defiance. "Your technology protects you partially," the first sentinel noted, gesturing to Lyra's modifications around the room. "Impressive adaptation. However, resistance is informative," interrupted a new voice. All heads turned as a third figure entered, elderly by the standards of Lyra's people. With deep violet skin marked with intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story in light and shadow, Elder Soren. Lyra gasped, automatically lowering her head in respect. The elder moved with deliberate grace, examining the observatory with keen interest. "When your unauthorized expedition was discovered, Observer Lyra, I suspected there was more to your fascination with this world." The elder's eyes, deeper and more knowing than the sentinels, settled on Nate. "I did not expect this. However, the protocols are clear," insisted the first sentinel. "Protocols evolve," replied Elder Soren. "As must we." The elder approached one of Lyra's modified devices, examining it with appreciation. "Tell me, human, what would you risk to protect her?" "Everything," Nate answered without hesitation. The elder nodded, as if confirming a theory. "And you, Lyra? What have you learned that was worth such violation?" Lyra straightened, her luminescence pulsing with emotion. "That our assessments are incomplete. That humanity possesses qualities we have overlooked. Adaptability, empathy, courage." Her eyes met Nate's briefly. "And that connection between different beings can transcend the boundaries." we believe are fixed. A tense silence filled the room. The sentinels remained poised for action, but the elder raised a hand to stay them. For millennia, we have observed from a distance, debating whether humanity was ready, Elder Soren said. Perhaps the question should have been whether we were ready. The elder turned to the sentinels. This human will not be terminated or have memories extracted. Instead, he will become our first official contact. The sentinels stiffened in obvious disagreement, but did not challenge the elder's authority. And Lyra? Nate asked, unable to keep the concern from his voice. Elder Soren's expression softened. Observer Lyra has demonstrated initiative that, while reckless, has provided valuable insights. She will remain as liaison between our worlds, if that is her wish. Lyra's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with joy. She reached for Nate's hand, intertwining her fingers with his. It is my wish, she confirmed. As dawn broke over the mountains, bathing the observatory in golden light, the elder initiated first contact protocols. The sentinels reluctantly stood down, and plans were made for careful, limited exchanges of knowledge and culture. Later, standing on the balcony where it had all begun, Nate and Lyra watched the elder's ship shimmer into invisibility, leaving them alone once more, but now with purpose and permission. I never imagined this outcome, Lyra admitted, her form radiant in the morning light. When I landed on your balcony that night, I was prepared for discovery, for punishment. Not for ... this. She gestured between them. Nate smiled, drawing her closer. That's the thing about exploring the unknown. Sometimes what you find is better than what you were looking for. As their lips met again, the stars continued their eternal dance above them, silent witnesses to a new chapter in the story of two worlds. Begun with a simple question on a stormy night, "May I stay with you tonight, human?" In the answer to that question, in the trust and connection that followed, something unprecedented had been born, a bridge across the vast darkness between stars, built not of technology or protocols, but of understanding, courage, and love.